So where can we see the chef in a few years from now? How big a brand could they actually be? Could they maybe be among the 5 top brands in their business? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here on the PlantStock channel today. We're also going to talk a little about the possibility if they've signed a deal with Kroger. And if that has happened, that's obviously a huge news. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. And if you aren't, then obviously welcome back. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet and you want to keep getting more information regarding the chef, Beyond Meat, or other plant-based companies out there, make sure to subscribe and don't forget that bell button. And if you want to help me out, make sure to smash that like button since it does help spread the video to more people out there. Thank you, folks. I truly appreciate your help. Now, if we take a quick look at the stock chart, ticker symbol TTCF in the NASDAQ, on Friday it landed at precisely $20. And now pre-market is up 1.7% at 2034. And if we take a look at the last 5 days or so, as we are accustomed to when it comes to this company, it's been a roller coaster. Now, as you probably know, the Tattoo Chef has actually been part of a series of conferences in the last couple of weeks. It was the Oppenheimer at the 16th of June, then the Jefferies one, and then apparently on the 23rd, there was a 7th annual ROF Virtual London Conference. And we have access to the Oppenheimer one and the Jefferies one. For some reason, we don't have access to the ROF virtual conference. I actually went into their site and you had to register in a different way, or then going to check me out to see if I'm appropriate to actually get that information. So we'll see what happens. I don't imagine that it's going to be that different from the other conferences, but if it is and I check it out in the near term future, I will let you know what they talked about. So I felt that I wanted to get a little deeper knowledge about what they talked about on these conferences and give you guys a rundown what they've been talking about, so we can actually come to a conclusion if this is a company we could see being a top brand in the next couple of years. Now, if we begin talking about the stores, as we know, they're planning to have their products at about 10,000 stores before the end of the year. And that is obviously huge. But right now they're doing really well at Walmart, Sam's Club, Target, and Costco. And something that is news to me is that they seem to have made a deal with Stop and Shop, which is a pretty good news also, obviously, because it's actually pretty big. It has about 415 stores. So great news on that. But also, they talked about Albertsons. And Albertsons, I would say, is a much bigger deal. It is the second largest retail store in North America when it comes to revenue, with about 2,250 stores. Now, they didn't talk about how many stores, but still pretty huge. And this actually takes us into the other part of this news, which is the Kroger deal, right? Now, my fellow YouTuber, JKR Investing, Jacob here, he came out a couple of days ago, 2 days ago, I think, the massive TTCF leaked news regarding that they might have a Kroger deal, right? Because he could see them on their page. Now, if I go into the Kroger site and I actually look for Tattoo Chef, you actually don't find them. But if you go into Google and search for Kroger and Tattoo Chef, you do find them like this. And there seem to be a couple of products, but as you see, you can't pick them up. There's no delivery, there's no shipping. That's what Jacob talks about too, right? And the reasons for that are probably that the deal is not done yet, right? So this is what the Chief Growth Officer, Matt Williams, had to say about this.
Obviously, Kroger is still something that we expect to have some finality on at some point this year. As they finalize their planograms. And then obviously Publix is another retailer that we're in conversations with and would hope to be able to have the benefit of doing business with them at some time this year as well.
So it actually does seem like this deal is not 100% a done deal. It's not finalized, as he mentioned, but it does seem like it might be during this year. So we have to wait and see. I still think this is good news because I do imagine this is very likely to happen, considering the other kind of deals they've done with several other chains. And obviously we don't know how many stores it's actually going to be at. If it's going to be all the 2,700 stores to begin with, I don't think that's likely. We don't know. But still good to just get in the footing there, right? And I do imagine that this news, if it is going to happen during this year is probably already calculated into those 10,000 stores. And we also found out on the conference call that they're selling their products, as we already knew, at Whole Foods Market nationwide. And actually, when I took a look at Whole Foods, this seemed to be actually a bigger deal than I thought previously. It's about 500 stores in North America, and interestingly enough, they have 7 in the UK. And I find that kind of interesting, considering that they already sell some of their products in the UK Costco stores, right? So could that mean that they might be selling these at the Whole Foods Market stores in the UK? Well, that's going to be interesting to follow. And as we know, we're hoping for that, right? We're hoping that they're going to eventually start moving in not only to the UK, but to Europe. But they actually talked about that. They are obviously planning to moving on internationally to Europe and other parts of the world. But right now, their main focus, near term, so don't worry about it, but near term, their main focus is going to be the US and then obviously the UK as well. They talked a little about Mexico, so I'm really looking forward to hear what they mean by that. And also, Matt Williams told us in one of the conference calls that when it comes to the plant-based sector, not really news to any of us on the channel, right? But the sector actually grows about 20% per year, which is quite a lot compared to other products out there that is non-plant based. That's actually about 3 times as much. And that actually puts the chef perfectly situated, not only in place, but time as well, right? Considering what kind of products they sell. And we know this is where the future is headed, right? The paradigm shift, people eating more and more plant-based. So really perfect for them. So I do see the company growing more and more, considering that they will probably be taking market share from those companies who haven't jumped on the plant-based train as yet. And in one of the conference calls, they actually talked about what kind of competitions they could expect and what kind of moat the company have to kind of defend itself, right, when it comes to competition. And the interesting thing is here is the CEO talked about that obviously they're going to be moving along with the industry, always trying to innovate. But he actually feels like when it comes to the Tattoo Chef products, it's actually unique in his perspective, considering what Sarah Galletti has been talking about, which is nostalgic innovation, meaning that she creates a product that kind of gives you memories of your younger days or memories about what you grew up eating, but now it'll be a plant-based version, but it's better and healthier for you, right? But not only that, it is that even if people can see the ingredient list, they don't know the way she mixes them, right? They don't understand the kind of sauce she creates. They talked about the burrito bowl with using a special kind of almond sauce, that those kind of things aren't that easily replicated. And another good point that the CEO made is that as a brand, they're going to become more and more known as a plant-based brand, right? They're probably going to get more and more established as a plant-based company, right? And even though they don't have the first mover advantage like Beyond Meat, and Beyond is beyond the competition, right? It doesn't mean that they're not one of the first movers out there, right? Especially a mover that has a company that actually has several SKUs that are plant-based, right? And with time, it's going to move into different kinds of category. Now that gives you an edge, that gives you an advantage long-term. And that's also something that Matt Williams talked about, that when you look at the most profitable companies, the companies that are doing the best in their sector, the frozen section, right? They usually have about 30 SKUs in the same store, right? 30 SKUs. That's pretty impressive. Considering that already now at Target, the Tattoo Chef have about 17. They're heading there, right? And according to Matt, that's the overall goal, that they can have 30 of their products in the different stores, right? And obviously with time, that will mean more than the frozen section. So basically people will see the Tattoo Chef everywhere in a store. They also went further in talking about the recent acquisitions. When it came to those 2 plants, there's about 300 people already working there. So I imagine that means that they kept the staff, right? And all the equipment is there. If they wanted to, they could already get out the new products from that facility within the next 3 to 4 months. And the things we would see then would be handheld burritos, tortillas, different plant-based meats, and they actually mentioned something about plant-based vegan chicken. So that sounded interesting. But It could be this year, but probably not, because that would mean in Q4, and Q4 is the holiday season. That's not usually what people focus on. So it probably will be Q1 in 2022. And we also found out that the Carson facility is going to be operational in Q4, and that's where they're going to start making those snacks that we've been talking about before. And interestingly enough, we found out also that the CEO was more than surprised when he actually realized how big of an opportunity the tortilla business is, right? That just on these facilities that they've gotten, they could make, if they want to, about 70 million pounds of tortilla long term. Now that is huge. That is super huge, I think, especially when they start eyeing Mexico, right? And South America. So folks, let me know down in the comments, what kind of opportunities do you see them having in South America? I'm really interested to hear your opinion. So before we end it with moving on to talking about why I think this could be one of the top brands out there, let's just take a look at what they talked about when it comes to their finances, right? And the CFO, Stephanie Diekman, she talked about the 2 new facilities that they now have, which gives them 4 facilities. So basically, they have a clear path as a company to $500 million in the next couple of years. Now, obviously, we know they also mentioned a clear path to $1 billion by 2026. And that is super good news to hear them talk about that now. But they do mention, we have to keep that in mind, but that actually means that they need to acquire more facilities when it comes to capacity, right? Because it's not going to be enough. And that's something that's obviously in the works. But they also mentioned, the CEO mentioned several times in both conferences, that when they're going to acquire other companies out there, even if it's plant-based companies, they're not interested in keeping their brands and then just selling their products, making that money. No, they're going to convert them into the TTCF brand because they believe in their own brand. Obviously, that's a strong brand in their eyes, long-term, obviously in our eyes as well. And what they will do is shape it into what they believe in and start selling it. What they're most interested in is the capacity, the production capacity. And Stephanie also mentioned that the good thing about this business, as we know right now, they don't need co-packagers. They don't need co-manufacturers. They basically can control everything, which is golden, as we know. That means that, as she says, they can control the growth, their production, basically everything, controlling their destiny. And long term, that means that they'll be able to control the gross margins much better, right? That they can actually get those margins to go up with time. Because right now, they've been spending quite a lot of money when it comes to shipping and freight. And we know that's been an issue because they're expanding like crazy, right? But also that they're putting in a lot of money when it comes to promotional activities at the moment. They talked about TV commercials, streaming services, different kind of digital media, right? And that obviously eats away in the margins. But within a year to 2 years from now, they're hoping that a lot more people will be aware of them, so they don't need to put that money on them, and then they just put that money in the bank, right? So when we come to the concluding part here, something that I found really interesting is that apparently right now, Matt Williams told us that when they look at the ranking of these different frozen section companies, there's about 137 that you looked at. Where do you think that the chef is? Well, actually already at the 16th place, 1-6. Now imagine that, guys. This is a company as a brand that hasn't existed very long. What is it, like 2-3 years maybe? And already at 16th place in the US. Now that is an incredible achievement and milestone, I would say, considering that they've barely begun on this journey, right? Yes, sure, by the end of the year, they'll be at about 10,000 stores, but it's still nothing comparatively to a lot of other companies out there, right? And already ranked at 16th place. Could that mean, I think it could, that within the next couple of years, could they be maybe at number 5, 4, 3, top 5 at least? Could they be number 1 in 5 to 10 years from now? Well, that's a journey I want to follow. Well, we do know that they're growing like crazy at the moment as a company, especially their brand, the way it's growing every year. But also we know the overall sector in itself is growing by 20% per year. And a lot of those companies aren't selling plant-based products. And if they are, they don't have this large assortment. And we know, again, where we're headed, the paradigm shift. If you're a company that already have like 60 SKUs out there, and that's what the CEO talked about, by the end of the year, it's going to be about 60 SKUs, probably more, he said. And I have to say, I do agree with the CEO. In many ways, this company, as a frozen section company, they do stand out compared to a lot of other companies out there. Frozen food that is better for you, several products that has a whole foods approach. It's convenient. It's the times we live in. Focus on the millennials and the Gen Zs, the kind of products they're interested in. I mean, what other plant-based company or other company out there actually has that focus? And then the brand itself, the Tattooed Chef brand. I mean, that's the kind of brand that will stick with you, right? With most people, I would say. And as we know, branding is everything. And I imagine within a couple of years from now, we could see that most people, especially from Gen Z and millennial generations, will actually have this imprinted. Not maybe physically, but you know what I'm saying. And don't forget what Matt Williams has been talking about, that they're the number one brand at Target already, right? Outselling companies like Lean Cuisine and Amy's, companies that existed in the business for years and years now. Now that's an achievement. Come on, guys. Let me know down in the comments, what kind of expectations do you have from this company? Do you see what I see? Could this be a top 5 brand in the next 3-5 years from now? I mean, considering out of 137 brands, they're already at number 16, 1-6, folks. Let me know down in the comments. Well, folks, that was it for today. I truly hope you got a lot of value from today's video. And if you did, make sure to smash that like button and help me out. And if you want to keep getting more information regarding the chef, Beyond Meat, Oatly, the Very Good Food Company, to name a few, make sure to subscribe and don't forget that magic bell button. Thank you, folks. I truly appreciate your help. But do not forget, this was not financial advice. These were just my own thoughts and opinions. It's important to do your own due diligence and, as always, invest safe. Hope to see you soon. Have a great Monday and peace out.